Okay. Wow, we have a lot of factoring strategies, but let's sum them up. Okay. This is a flow chart. It's from your textbook online. It's section 10.6. And so it's just a summary of factoring strategies. So what you do is if we start right here, okay, make that a little bit bigger. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay. All right, so let's factor out the greatest common factor. We've talked about that is the first thing you do no matter what, okay? Then you're either going to be given a trinomial, trinomial right here, four terms, a polynomial with four terms, or a binomial, okay? You have three choices. So let's start at the top with the trinomial. We'll go with a different color. It's kind of fun. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your trinomial and you say, are the first and the last terms, if they're both perfect squares, remember we just talked about that, then yeah, then you're going to go, if it's yes, then go up here and try to do that special where you take the square roots of both of them and you get a perfect square. Okay, if they're not perfect squares, okay, then go back here. Now you ask yourself, is the leading coefficient, or A, is it 1? Then you say, oh yeah, and that's a smiley face, because then you just do the sums and products. This guy right here, where they times to C and they add to B. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to need to go here. Oops, let's go back to this one. If it's not 1, they say try the AC method. I also say trial and error, especially with primes. Okay, it'll save yourself some time. Okay, now that's our green path. Let's go, we start here again, always factor out. This time, if there's four terms, there's really only one thing and you can do. If there's four terms at this stage of the game, you need to factor by grouping, okay? Otherwise, you call it prime. All right, and then the other fun one would be down here. If there's a binomial, then is it the difference of two squares? Yes, then factor it, easy like we liked, the square root of a in the front, square root of b in the back. And if it's not, then you don't factor it, okay? There's actually something for a binomial that's called the difference and sum and difference of cubes. And I'm going to mention that here because I think you're going to run into that in your future. It's not in this series of lectures, but I'm going to ask you to look that up on your quiz. So the sum and difference of two cubes, that would be like, oh, say x to the third power, and 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So those are two cubes. Or x to the third power, and 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So those are special binomials. I'm just noticing them here. Okay, you don't have to be responsible for those right now. So there we go. Okay, so here's the messy thing that you can have with color. Now, some students have asked me, let's see, let's stop share that and let's share verbal, because they've said, do you have a way to talk about factoring without all those pictures? Okay, and so that's what I'm going to look at now. So let's go ahead and give me a yellow. Okay, so here's my factoring summary. So any polynomial, if they give you any polynomial, what's the first thing you're going to do? Okay, common factor. We got that. All right, now if it's a trinomial, all right, and a is 1, that's nice right here. Use the products and the sum. We love those. Those are the most common two, you guys. You're going to have the product times to C right here, and they add to B right there. Okay. Now, variations are if A does not equal 1. Okay. I'm going to recommend the guess and check if the numbers are prime, or the AC method if they're not, and if that's your favorite, it works for any of them. Okay, and here's an example where we have A is not 1. Okay, now don't forget, you may have to do these two right here, find the common factor first and then factor it. So like right here, sure, a is not 1, but you can take that 3 out. Okay, so just remember, try that for, that goes back up to this top one. And don't forget, sometimes we give you prime trinomials and you can't factor. For example, right here, 15, there are no two numbers that times to 15 and add to -4. It's just not possible. And that would be your prime. Okay. All right, the second type, hello, let's get yellow back. All right, would be binomials. Now, binomials, I'm going to show you a little more than you need here. This is what you really need, and that is the difference of two squares. Don't forget, if it's not the difference, that cannot be factored. If there's a plus between them, it's prime. And you may have to find the common factor first. Okay, so if you find, say you took the 2 out of this, it doesn't mean you can keep going. You might be done right there, so it very well could be. Also, you may have a common factor and then you have to keep going. For example, this one, 10x squared minus 10, once you take the 10 out, you have the difference of two squares. So don't stop. Okay, and then I mentioned this, it's not something you're going to be responsible for, but these are the formulas. You might be able to use that on one of your quizzes. I'm just saying. Okay, this is the end of this video. Now you can try with all of the types of factoring mixed up. That's what this is about right now. They're going to mix up all the problems and you have to choose which way do I do it.